Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we'll be reviewing the global CROMOVA18 G-2 8-inch chef's knife. Now, I'm not a professional chef, nor am I a knife enthusiast, but I have done a fair bit of home cooking, so this review will come from the perspective of a home cook. As a home cook, you're not likely going to be required to cut up 5 kgs of onions, nor make a ton of mapua. So we start off with the first quality, and perhaps the most important one, beauty. This is a very clean looking knife, with the only decorative element being the handle. The whole thing is stainless steel, which is as no frills as it can get. Of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so for the more minimalist type, this might be ideal. You might see some knives with wooden handles or fancier blades like carbon steel or Damascus. Those look nicer, but functionally they make very little difference. But just like in real life, the prettier things normally come with higher maintenance. Carbon steel blades are more likely to react with your food such that it discolors a bit, whereas stainless steel, because of the high chromium content, is much less likely to rust. Realize that I say much less likely because stainless steel, given the correct conditions, is still gonna rust. Similarly for wooden handles, they may look more pretty, but they are more likely to hide bacteria. So that's the reason why you don't really see that in the food industry. So prettier knives normally only comes with certain drawbacks. But how many poor decisions have been made because of a pretty face? And the second thing I want to talk about is fit, and this is as important if not more important than beauty. And there's so many things to talk about when it comes to fit, like the handle, the bolster, the length of the knife, the handedness. Some knives are ambidextrous. This is ambidextrous. Ambidextrous meaning that it's symmetrical, means that it's the same either hand that you grip it, whereas certain knives have a curve, so such that it's only meant for right-handers. It's the classic it should feel good in your hand, like how your shoes should fit you in a basketball or football, the way you like your rackets in badminton or tennis, or how certain pedals and amplifiers make your guitar sound. And I think there's almost too much to be said about the fit, such that it's very pointless to go into all of that. Like, I can describe to you all the details of what makes a certain fit a certain way, right? But unless you have cut enough things, right, you will not know your preference in knives. So unless you have done a certain amount of cutting, don't splurge on a knife just yet. And while we are on this point, definitely don't buy a set of knife or a knife block to begin with. 95% of the work in the kitchen can be done with the chef's knife. And the 5% can also be done with the chef's knife. Albeit not as smoothly. Buying a knife block increases your buy-in by a lot, which means that you have even lesser to spend on the knife that you actually need. But I digress. The global CROMOVA18 G-2 chef's knife is a very typical Japanese knife. What I mean by that is that it's very light. This weighs in at under 167 grams. That is lighter than my Google Pixel 2 XL. And it's also lighter than 167 grams of feathers. So the good thing about being light is that if you have to cut stuff for 3 hours, your forearm wouldn't hurt. Although this is rarely the case for a home cook. Regardless, for the more slender or meeker of you, this would be more ideal than, let's say, a classic German knife, which is usually thicker and heavier and has more stopping power. The second thing is it's very tapered and thin. I would say 2 mm, and it's tapered downwards towards the edge. This means that you can have a lot of control while cutting something thinly. But at the same time, because there's so little weight on the blade, right, you might lack stopping power to go through, let's say, a chicken bone or a butternut squash. Of course, you can still smash through chicken bone with a thin knife, or even cut thinly with a thick knife, as long as you have the skill. What I'm talking about here is simply a matter of preference. And the last thing I want to talk about is the sharpness of the knife. You might be wondering, why did I leave this to the end? Shouldn't the sharpness be the most important thing when it comes to knives? Because firstly, this does not apply to me because I usually just easy clap and then everything is cut. And secondly, the sharpness of a knife is kind of misunderstood. When we talk about sharpness, we are usually talking about edge retention, i.e. how long does a knife stay sharp under usage? Because even a $2 knife, right, can be razor sharp if you give it to a master sharpener. Do we call it sharpener? Knife expert, Master knife sharpener. So what we're really talking about is the hardness of the material. Hard material hold their edge longer, but is susceptible to being cracked or chipped off. Because when you have something so hard and ungiving, right, when you foul it down to the cutting edge where it's so thin, right, it's very brittle. And if you can imagine it, a softer metal is more giving, so it dulls quicker, but at the same time, you need to spend less effort to sharpen it again. So you want a good balance. Not so hard such that, you know, once you like knock it like that, it cracks, and not so soft that you have to sharpen it after every use. Unfortunately, these materials are almost always alloys, so it's kinda hard to tell just from the packaging alone. And then even within stainless steel, there are many different grades. On the CROMOVA packaging, they said that this combination of stainless steel is their industry secret, and it's supposed to be the perfect combination of being, you know, hard and soft. In any case, it's more important that you get a sharpening tool like a whetstone so that your knife always stays sharp. And that's very important because people tend to cut themselves when their knife is blunt. Only when your knife is blunt, you have to put in more strength to force your way through. That's where the knife can, you know, go out of the way and then nick you. So a sharp knife is a safe knife. Straight out of the packaging, as expected, the G2 is extremely sharp. I always see this like sharpness test, right, on other videos, right? But this is the first time I actually do them myself, and it's really cool. Of course, I have to use the knife myself for a few months before I can talk about age retention and give it a fairer review. So maybe there'll be another video like half a year from now or something. As of now, I'm very impressed with the G2. It's just ridiculously light, such that I'm actually a bit scared of it. Because I know the edge is very sharp and it will go from place to place kind of quickly. I will have to sort of slow down my cutting until I can get used to this knife. Personally, I really like how minimalistic it is, and I think that's very important. Your ideal chef's knife should make you excited to cook and excited to use it. I realized in this video I talked a lot about the context of a knife rather than the G2. I'm sorry. I found it very hard to review the knife without giving some context as to what you should be looking at when choosing a knife. So yeah, anyway, thanks to today's video sponsor, my brother. This is actually a Christmas gift for my brother. I could never afford a knife like this, and I'm really looking forward to cooking more of this. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys this time. Like the video if you liked it, disliked it if you disliked it, and subscribe if you want to see more food content like this. And I'll see you guys in the next video.
That boy is Benny Hanna.